Looking at our invitational questions, number 1, which image results from the given translation? 1 unit left and 2 units down. So for each one of these parts in the matrix, the top number is the x coordinate, the bottom number is the y coordinate. So this is the point 0, -2. So if we take that point, if we go 1 unit to the left and 2 units down, so 1 unit to the left would take us to -1, 2 units down would take us to -4. So we're basically looking for something that has one of the points at -1, -4. And the only one that has that is choice B. If more than one had it, then we would check it with these others also. So this would be the point -2, 2. And if we go 1 left would be -3, 2 down would be 0. So -3, 0, and that would be this point S prime. So the best thing would be a problem like that, just split it up. Somebody do the first one, somebody do the second one, somebody do the third one, and then if you have time, do the last one. Number 2, the coordinates of the vertices of a rhombus are 1, 1, 5, 3, 7, 7, and 3, 5. Find the length of the longer diagonal. So if we just sketch out these points. Okay, you might have an idea going into it. The ones that are, the smallest numbers and the biggest numbers, that's where we're going to get our biggest diagonal. So we're trying to find that length. So we could just make a right triangle out of that, or like we talked about, you could look at change in x squared plus change in y squared, and then take the square root of that. It's really kind of going off of the Pythagorean theorem. So the x's, we go from 1 to 7, so that's going over 6 units, and then the y's, we go from 1 to 7, that's 6 units as well. And so we've got 36 plus 36 is 72, square root of 72. At that point, you could just type that in your calculator and see which one it matches up with. Square root of 72 doesn't come out evenly, so you know it's either going to be B or D, and it ends up being choice B. Number 3, they're referring back to that same rhombus, and they're asking what is the area of the rhombus. So for the area, we already found one of the diagonals was square root of 72. The other diagonal would be going from 3, 5 to 5, 3. So the x's, we go from 3 to 5 is a difference of 2. The y's, we go from 5 to 3 is a difference of 2. -2 if you want, but we're just going to square it anyway. So this is actually one case where you can get by not worrying about which order you're subtracting things in. Because you square it, it's always going to be positive. So that's the square root of 8. So for a rhombus, the area is half of diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So half of square root of 72 times square root of 8 And if you just type that in your calculator, that works out to be 12, which is answer choice B. Number 4, Kramer's rule is used to solve the system of equations 2m plus 3n equals 11 and 3m minus 5n equals 6. Which determinant represents the denominator form? So it's 1 over the determinant. So the determinant is going to be based off of the coefficients of our variables. So 2, 3, and then 3, negative 5. So once again, that would be answer choice B. Number 5, just a fact question here, and that is answer choice A, 2%. Number 6, which statement below about the function f of x equals 2x squared minus 3 is correct? Remember, instead of f of x, they could have just put y equals here. So if you think about this, you know with the x squared, you know it's a parabola, so it's either going to be a u or an upside down u. Based off of the 2 in front, that's positive, so it is going to be a u shape, so it's opening up. If it opens up, that means that it has the vertex is at the minimum point, and this is kind of in this format because the y is by itself. So hopefully we've talked about this quite, but x squared, if you'll notice, there's nothing that is being subtracted from that in parentheses or anything, but if you think about it, then that means you could be subtracting 0. And then since it says plus k, if you want to add the opposite there, you can. What that means is our vertex is at 0, negative 3. So if we're at 0, negative 3, and it opens up, that tells me that the value of y is never less than negative 3. So it would be answer choice A. B doesn't make sense because that would be for a parabola that opens down. Value of x is always greater than the value of y. That's not necessarily going to be the case. And value of y is always greater than the value of x. That's not always the case either necessarily. Number 7 is another fact question. Julia Robinson studied all the following topics except, and that is B, topology. Number 8, if we have these matrices and scalar C, which statement is always true? So one thing is it makes a difference what order you multiply the matrices in. So yx is not going to be equal to xy with multiplying matrices. If you look at choice C, that kind of stands out, that if you added 2 matrices together, you would think, oh, well, those should be the same. The problem is with y and z is that they have different dimensions, and so we actually can't even add them together. That's undefined. So that doesn't work. Choice D, we have these in a different order again, so that doesn't work. So notice on A, the only difference is where the scalar is at. So the scalar, actually normally we would put the scalar in front, but if you put it in behind, then it actually would work out the same also. So it would be answer choice A. Number 9, we have a square on the coordinate grid. G has the coordinates of 3, 4. H has the coordinates of 3, 2. What is the equation for segment HI? And we have to be careful here because initially, when I saw this problem, I was thinking of the coordinates they gave me, but they actually gave me GH, not HI. So 3, 4 is here, and 3, 2 is here. Okay, so here's this segment. We're looking for HI. The order they put the letters, that should tell us the order that these points are in our square. So GH, the next letter here is I. So that means I, we're just going to continue in the same order. GHI, so I is going to be over here somewhere. And it's a square actually, so we know it's exactly going to be 2 units over further. And then the question is, what's the equation for segment HI? Well, really a segment doesn't have an equation. It would be a line that would have to have an equation. But anyway, if you notice, that would be the point 5, 2. H had the point 3, 2. So what's happening, we just went straight across. That means our y value is staying the same. So y equals 2 would be an equation that would at least go through those 2 points. Number 10, which equation does not represent a line that passes through the points 1, 3 and 4, negative 9? So we would want to find our slope. So change in y over change in x. So let's say we do 3 minus negative 9, keep the same order, 1 minus 4. So if you add the opposite on these, becomes 3 plus 9 is 12. 1 plus negative 4 would be negative 3. And then 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. So the slope is negative 4. Our goal then would be to get these in this form y equals mx plus b. So if it's solved for y, the coefficient of x should be equal to negative 4. That's what we want. The question though is which one does not represent a line that passes through that. So we're really looking for which one doesn't have a slope of negative 4. This first one, if you start to distribute that, that would be negative 4x. Okay, you would actually still have to subtract 9, but that's not going to affect your slope at all. The second one, if you distribute, that would be negative 4x. It'd be plus 4, and you'd have to add 3, but that's not going to affect your slope either. Choice C, that's just in a different order, but it's really just what the coefficient of x is what we're looking for. So that also is negative 4. So it is going to be choice D. That one, the x term is on the same side, so we would actually want to clear all this out to the other side. So that would be 4x plus 7. Okay, that has a slope of 4, not negative 4, so for sure that would be the one that would not pass through those points. That would be one way of doing that. Another way of doing that would be you could figure out what the y-intercept is. Another thing you could do is substitute those points back into the equation. I don't know if you have too much time to substitute that back in, so let me just mention real quick on the y-intercept. So y-intercept would be, you know the slope is negative 4, and then you can just put one of the points. So one of the points was 1, 3. If you substitute those in the equation, you can figure out what the y-intercept is equal to. So negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And then to get the b by itself, to get rid of a negative 4, you need to add 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. So what that tells us altogether is our equation should be y equals negative 4x plus 7. So it's kind of looking at both things there, but like I said, the slopes ended up not all being the same. I guess if the slopes were all the same, then we'd be kind of stuck where we would have to figure out what that y-intercept is before we could distinguish what the answer actually is. Number 11, we have these two matrices and they want us to find the first row of RS. So RS means we're multiplying R times S. They just want us to find the first row. So the first row, we're going to take this row times this column. So starting out, we got 3 times 2 is 6. 0 times negative 1 is 0. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And then we're going to multiply that first row by the second column. So 3 times 4 is 12. 0 times 0 is 0. And negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. So if you add these together, that would be 0. If you add these together, that would be 14. So 0, 14, which would be answer choice D. Number 12, they want us to find the center of the circle with the diameter endpoints listed there. So basically then, if those are the endpoints, we want to find the midpoint. So if we just add our x values, divide by 2, add our y values, divide by 2. So this would be 3 over 2 and negative 8 over 2. Negative 8 divided by 2 would be negative 4. There's only one that has that option. 3 halves would be 1.5 or 1.5. So choice D. 13, they want us to find the y-intercept that passes through those points. So this would be actually what we did earlier on the one problem. We have to find our slope. So change in y, we could do 8 minus 2, and then 1 minus negative 1. That'd be 6 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then just substitute either point in. I might pick 1, 8, just because there's no negatives there. So 8 is y, 3 is m, 1 is x. Make sure you put them in the right spots. 3 times 1 is 3, subtract 3, means our y-intercept is 5, answer choice B. Number 14, how many elements are there in a 3 by 4 matrix? So 3 rows, 4 columns, 3 times 4 is 12, choice D. 15, they want us to write the equation of the circle with this information. So they've given us the center and the point on a circle. So if we just use our formula, based off the center, we know we need x minus 4 and a y minus 2. So that doesn't help anything. They've all got that. The question then is really just what the radius is. So we want to find the distance between these. So for the x's, we went from 4 to 10. That's a difference of 6. Okay, you can use Pythagorean theorem or this distance formula. 2 to 3, that's a difference of 1. So 36 plus 1 is 37. That's our radius, and we square it, then that would be 37. So answer choice C. Number 16 is just another factual question. Katherine Johnson in 2015 was given the A Presidential Medal of Freedom. 17, baseball was hit with an initial velocity of 80 feet per second. Ignoring the height of the baseball player, how long does it take for the ball to hit the ground? So when it hits the ground, that's when the height is 0. You can ignore this. This is basically just saying height is a function of time. V sub 0, that's our initial velocity. And then probably what I would do is just start substituting in. Somebody try A, somebody try B, somebody try C. And so if you put in a 5 in place of T, if you work that out, this would be 400 minus 400, which is 0, and that's what we wanted. So A is our answer. If that didn't work, somebody else hopefully worked out a different one, and then figure out which one it is that works. 18, they want us to find the equation of the line through the point -3, -5, parallel to this other line. So the other line is not in slope-intercept form, so probably what I would do first is work with that one and just solve for y. And really we're more concerned with the variables, not the constants. So, I mean, technically we would add 4 on both sides, but that's not really our concern. Our concern is this right here. Slope is -7/2. That's what we want. So if it's parallel, it has the same slope. So we want another equation that would have the slope -7/2. And if you'll notice, just looking at the coefficients, A, in answer choice A, we had the same setup. We had the same coefficients on both of those. Okay, so if they have, I guess you could say if they're everything's on one side of the equation, if all the coefficients are the same, those are going to be parallel to each other as well. Okay, and you could go through, everybody could pick one and try to solve, but that's going to be the one with the same slope. 19, they want us to find the value of this matrix. Note that all these are 1s in the middle here. There's something to be said about that. So if we tried to do this shortcut method and we wrote the first 2 rows again, and then we can start with looking at our diagonals. So multiply those, that would be df. Multiply these would be f squared. Multiply these, d times d would be d squared. And then going the other direction, this would be fd, which is the same as df. If you have 2 variables multiplied, it doesn't matter what order it is. This would be plus d squared, and this would be plus f squared. Okay, and what we do, we take those first diagonals minus the second ones. Well, if you'll notice, other than the order being different, these are the same as each other. So if you take something and you subtract what you had to start with, you will get 0. Okay, so again, that kind of has to do with the 1s in the middle, and then also the first and last rows kind of are opposites of each other, where the D's and F's are at. So anyway. Number 20, why did John Glenn want Katherine Johnson to return to the space task group? And that was D, to recheck the calculations for the landing coordinates. 21, they want us to write the equation of the circle with this given information. So based off the center, we need x. Remember, these are opposites, so x plus 10 squared and y minus 10 squared. And once again, they've not given anything away on that. Those are all the same. If you notice they're all the same, don't even mess with the center part, really. It's really the radius is what we're looking after here. So the area of a circle is pi r squared. So if the area is 36 pi, that basically tells us 36 is equal to the radius squared. And that's really what we want. In our equation, radius squared is what we want. So you can stop right there. That's answer choice C. 22, they want us to solve the matrix equation for y. And there's a way we talked about working this out algebraically. So we could go through that. Just to mention here, another option would be using Kramer's rule. So with Kramer's rule, first of all, we're just going to do the determinant of this matrix. So 3 times 5 is 15, and then minus 4 times negative 2 would be negative 8. And you could just type that in your calculator if you have any hesitations about this. You could add the opposite. That's going to be 23. So when we do this, we're going to have 1 over the determinant. So we're going to have 1 over 23. And then we need to figure out x and y normally, but they really just want us to figure out what y is equal to. So to figure out what y is equal to, we keep the x row, or keep the x column, I should say, the 3 and the 4. And then we, instead of the y column, we put these constants there. And then we just find the determinant of that. So 3 times 7 is 21, minus 4 times 11 is 44. So that's negative 23. So 1 over 23 times negative 23, you're going to get negative 23 over 23, which is equal to negative 1. That would be answer choice B. If you were doing this by hand, kind of the other way we talked a little bit about, if you were trying to find what y was equal to. So these are 3x minus 2y equals 11, and then 4x plus 5y equals 7. If we're trying to find what y is, then we want our x's to cancel out. So think about your x's if they were denominators. If you had 3 and 4 as denominators, common denominator would be 12. So we want to get these to 12, except one of them we want to be 12 and one we want to be a negative 12. So let's say we do that. First one times 4, second one times negative 3. And there the x's cancel. We've got negative 23y equals 23. Divide by negative 23. And then you'll get negative 1 that way also. Okay. So just options for you on that one. 23, they want us to find the x-intercepts and y-intercept of this graph. So the x-intercepts would be where y is equal to 0. And notice it says x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So what should happen, these first things should be our potential x-intercepts, and then the last things should be our potential y-intercepts. Probably the easiest thing then would just be to start substituting some of those numbers in there. You can actually solve this out and figure out mathematically which ones work, but probably time-wise, just substituting things in. So if you put in, let's say you put in a negative 1 for x, and then just see if that works. So this would be negative 5. And you could really actually just type that all in your calculator if you had any hesitancy about that. Negative 5 squared, negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. And you can see this is not going to work. So negative 1 didn't work. Just by that, we've already eliminated A and C. If you'll notice, B and D both have the same x-intercepts, so it's really just now about the y-intercept, so we can go to that. The y-intercept would be if x is equal to 0. Well, if x is equal to 0, I would just put in a 0 for x and just work that out. There's only one way this can work. And you could actually just type that in your calculator at that point. Another another option that would probably be good is somebody work on x-intercepts and somebody work on y-intercepts, just to keep moving through the problem. So that's 14, y-intercept of 14, that would be answer choice B. (24), we're trying to find the area of this triangle, so let's do this. We've got just put the coordinates and then put a 1 in the third column. And then if you want to do the shortcut way, we just rewrite the first two columns again. Okay, then we just got to look at our diagonals. So we're going to start going down. So 3 plus -6 plus 8. And then the other way we would have -9 plus -4 plus -4. And this would be a thing too. You could, split up. Somebody do the ones going down, somebody do the ones going up if you want it. And then if you got time to do the other one, then go for that. But so 3 plus 8 is 11, minus 6 is 5. And then over here we've got -17. Remember, we're going to subtract these. Okay, so 5 minus -17 would be like 5 plus 17, which is 22. And then it's the area of the triangle, so we're going to take half of that. Okay, just remember, like, the area of the triangle is half base times height. So half of 22 is 11. And then this one worked out, but just remember, if you would get a negative number, it's an area of a triangle, it's got to be positive. So that's where we did like that plus or minus 1/2 thing. In this case, the 22 was already positive, so we don't have to worry about that. So answer choice B. 25, they want us to find the value of y that makes each side of the figure have the same length. So if we just kind of sketch these out, we've got 1, 7, 3, 1, 9, 3, and 7 something. Well, for these to be the same, that means we're going to have a square. So if you can imagine the square, that other point is going to have to be up here somewhere. So think about what that y value is. It looks like it's going to have to be bigger than this one, right? So that had a y value of 7. The only option that has a bigger y value than 7 is 9. So that would be choice D. And you could go through and you could figure out distances and all that stuff, but probably don't have time for that. So just think logically. These are a couple of alternate questions. This first question, they want the vertex. So it's pretty straightforward. Remember, it's opposite of this part and then the same as this one. So that would be 3/6, so choice D. Second question here, they want us to find the second row. So second row, we're going to be looking at this 0, 4, and then multiplying that to these other columns. So 0 times 4 is 0, 4 times 6 is 24, and then next column, 0 times -2 is 0, 4 times 1 is 4, and then last one, 0 times -1/2 is 0, 4 times 0 is 0. So we've got 24, 4, and 0, and that would be choice B. Last question. Distance from the point P, 2, 3 from the x-axis is what? Don't get fooled here. Here's the x-axis. What's the distance? Well, That would be 3 units. It's a straight shot. We're going straight up. 3 units away, choice B. So hopefully this helps you with what we're doing here with the Academic Super Bowl, and have a good day.